Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the U.S. Chess and Education Committee's January webinar featuring the Impact Coaching Network. We're really thrilled to see many of you here tonight. I know we're competing with a football game, and we're glad you took a few minutes out to join us and hear about the work that's being done by Russ Makofsky and his team. I'd like to acknowledge our volunteer leadership in the Chess and Education Committee, Renee Bartlett and John Galvin, who are serving as co-chairs, as well as all the committee members who have been generously giving of their time to help lead U.S. chess in this area where we hadn't been doing a whole lot in recent years. And so a shout out to all of the committee members for everything they've been contributing. At this time, I would like to turn over the floor to Mark Indemar, who is a member of the committee, and he will be this evening's webinar moderator. Mark.
Thank you, Carol. I'm joining you from Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm a parent volunteer in chess clubs and started a chess nonprofit. So I'm really excited to be part of this committee. And our special guest tonight is Russ Makofsky from New York City. Russ has started an organization called the Impact Coaching Network. And in just a few years, he's built this amazing network of chess programs in over 20 schools, I think mostly elementary schools. And we're really interested to learn from him. We're going to have presentation from Russ. I'm going to ask him a few questions, and then we'll have breakout rooms where Russ and members of his team will be in each room, and we'll give each of you opportunities to ask them questions yourselves. So we're recording this session in case any of your peers are not able to join us live, and we'll also record the individual breakout sessions. So with that, Russ, let me turn it over to you so you can give us a short presentation on your amazing programs.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Carol, for having us. Thank you to John and Renee for organizing this event and including us. My name is Russ from work out of New York City, most of the public schools. I've been in chess education for the past 15 years. It's all I've ever done, as my first job, hopefully my last. And I'm as passionate about it today as I was when I started 15 years ago. And it's a really rewarding way to, I think, chess provides a platform to impart a lot to other people, life skills, educational skills, building community, giving people opportunities. I think the game of chess is a game that creates incredible opportunities for others. So I look at it as a platform for me to do everything that I love, and along with the game of chess, which I love dearly as well since I was a child. So I think as chess educators in this room, I think we understand the impact that we can have and the power that chess can have. And I think every time we meet a new student or go into a new classroom, I think we're probably all as inspired as I am. And that's probably why we're spending our time here tonight. That's competing with a football game, is because we profoundly believe in the value of chess as a educational tool, a community building tool, a tool that can really change lives. And that's been my experience over all these years. And I'm still as passionate, like I said, today as I was when I first started. Tonight, we're joined by some of our team members out of Impact Coaching Network. We have Aaron Parnas, Ian West, Alexis Paredes, Eddie Ma, and myself. Is that 5? I believe. So you'll be hearing from them as well, and they're going to contribute to the conversation as well. So we're going to get into a bit of a Q&A, but before we do, I'm just going to walk you through some high-level kind of ideas about ICN, who we are, and then we'll dig into some more specifics. So I'm going to share my screen, and I think you guys can see it. So this is ICN's homepage. I think when we first started the program, we had a sort of our identity or our mission statement or vision. We haven't changed it. It's been at the front of our website, in front of everything that we do from the very beginning. It's called we consider ourselves a unique team first training approach, dedicated to building vibrant chess communities and delivering measurable chess success. A lot of what we do, if you see here, is it's about teams, and teams can be considered groups of kids. I know chess is an individual game, but we've really looked at it from a more team community-based aspect. Team first, building communities around the game of chess. And the last part is delivering measurable chess success. Chess is a game that's measured. Every child that plays in the US Chess Federation has a rating, and that's a measurable way to track progress and to incentivize. And you can really see the difference from a kid walking in on day one to when they've been in the program for 3 or 4 years. If they're playing tournaments, their rating should go up. And I think that's a great indicator and a tool that we have that we can track success because it's measurable on the progress that we have. And Impact Coaching Network, the name itself, when we were looking for a name, it doesn't have chess in it, which is interesting, but there was our first national championship team, which is out of PS33. And we won the 4th grade or the 5th grade national chess championship. But I had met the kids 1 year prior when it was my first class I ever taught. I walked into a classroom in New York City to cover. I was a substitute teacher, and I met 4 kids in the classroom. And one of them, his name was Adam, and then Ethan, and then Leo and Shumi. And those are the first kids this was many years ago. And, when I met them, connected with them, and it became sort of this magical moment for me where I saw the game not only as a game of chess, but also this idea that we can create a team and a community and do something together. And then, within the next year and a half, we won the national championship. But when Adam's mother was graduating, she sent me an email to thank me. And she said something along the lines, she said, "I want to thank you for the impact that you've had on my child. The coaching that you've been able to provide him has been incredible. And the network of schools and teams that he's around has just been really life-changing for him." So when I was looking for what we're going to call the organization, she said impact, and she talked about coaching, she talked about the network. So that's how we came up with the name Impact Coaching Network. It was an email from a parent that was sort of thanking us for the efforts that we had done on behalf of her child and others' childs as well. So Impact Coaching Network is made up of, as the name describes, it's a network of schools. These are schools that we have in Manhattan and all public schools in New York City. Is a name. A name is the public school, and then the number of the school. So public school 11, 59, 111, 33, so on and so forth. These are in Manhattan and in Brooklyn. We have the same schools as well. Now, our idea is to create a network where ICN becomes almost like the superstructure, but an invisible arm of operational abilities to bring programs into schools. But when you look at the schools itself, if you were to click on, say, PS11, every school has their own unique identity and individuality. ICN will be found nowhere in our programs. We don't like to talk about it. It's almost like a dirty word, ICN, because kids want to be part of PS11. They don't really have an interest in representing ICN. So we have this balance of, we need to have an organization that can straddle and provide the resources and the coaches and the infrastructure to support these programs, but we really want the experience of the schools to be unique to that school. And that's why when we talk about it, this program is really something that we want the school to celebrate, the Parent-Teacher Association, the principal. We really want the school to take ownership over it and be proud of it. But the reality is in the New York school system, they don't have chess educators on staff. So they need to outsource to us, but we need to come back in and become part of that school in every way. And they need to feel like we're part of their staff and that we're completely sort of, when we are there, we are one with them in that process. That's why I say PS11, and you see like it has a logo. Each school has an independent logo and identity. They have their chess shirts and their team. And I just want to show you quickly. I'll show you what a team would look like. It's about a 60-second clip, and we can see. Hopefully the volume's on. Volume on. Is the volume on, Ian?
No, it's not playing any sound.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna reshare my screen and I'm gonna make sure I click the bottom volume on. So here. Okay. Share sound. Okay. I think we should be okay. then I'm going to show you similar version, and this is going to be a different school, but you'll see the similar kind of ideas. So in those two cases, I just want to kind of, that was two teams, and hopefully that you got to feel that each team was highlighted and kind of try to capture their communities, their school, their t-shirts, their neighborhoods. And the network, even though it's organized by ICN, we make an effort to really partner with each individual school that we're a part of. So I hopefully that came across as a kind of a key idea. I'm going to share my screen again. And okay, and then when you have all this network of all these schools creating culture and identity, each individual school all over New York. This is PS 34. It's a new school. They're like, they have the Owls. You see their team. You have a PS say 59, Upper East Side. Once again, their own identity, their own team. Everybody begins to connect through shared stats. And that's what we'll talk about. So even though they're individual, we aggregate everybody together in something like this, where these are USCF ratings. And you see different kids from different schools, but we consolidate them into one central community idea. So even though the schools are separate, we're using an ecosystem of teams together to create an environment where the kids are plugging in against each other. So you see all the different stats of different kids. And so the kids, even though they're on the individual team, they're aware of the other teams that are in the program as well. So that's important. And the last thing I'll highlight before we get into the Q&A is that if I were to say one word, kind of describe some of the ideas that we're creating, it's like a little league of chess. I know when I talked to Mark about that, he thought that made a lot of sense, but chess is a competitive game by nature. Somebody wins, somebody loses. And when you have competitions, there's an ability to win as a team. We've all been to different, city, state, national events. There's the team component. So we treat it like a little league. We create teams and ideas and cultures and coaches, and then we plug these teams into competition, friendly competition with our local tournament circuit. And then we plug into the city, state, and national events. And it works very well. And when we're talking about a little league, you don't need to be a master level coach to be a good little league coach. You need to be a master level motivator and organizer and inspirer. So the skills of our coaches become more of a chess motivator than a chess educator. And if you find passionate people, that becomes the key. And when we talk a little bit more about how the curriculum looks, in 2023, there's so much chess education online. You talk about YouTube or Chess Kid, for example, Chessable. If you find a very inspirational coach that can organize, that's motivational, that cares about the kids, you can really point them towards great resources, and you can accelerate kids very quickly without ever having to really use the classroom time to bring in a grandmaster, international master, all the barriers of what might not be available. It becomes more important that these kids that are in this sort of chess little league, as it were, have great, the infrastructure is there and the resources there to get great, and the interest will be there, because I believe that the whole idea and the ecosystem will keep the kids motivated and interested in becoming very good very quickly. So that's kind of how we operate. And Ian, I know that you're here. If you have anything you want to add before we get into the Q&A that I missed, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Ian West. I'm the director of programming for ICN. What Russ just did is he did sort of the July 4th flyover, kind of like you just got to see the whole terrain there very quickly. I think probably a lot of questions were created in people's minds about how you build that starting from the ground up, sort of more on an atomistic level. I think for me, the key, I started in Scholastic Chess in 2003. And I was working for an organization as well, a different organization. But at the time, I was really kind of what Russ described, a coach with a lot of energy and a lot of passion and a lot of care. And I just needed to figure out how to direct it all so that I could get maximum results. And what I arrived at basically over time was, we have a lot of sort of catchy pet names for things in ICM. We kind of evolve these funny names for things, but we talk about the golden triangle. For me, the golden triangle is that coach, that motivated person who's willing to drive and organize and communicate and motivate is one corner of that triangle. The other two corners are equally important, and they are a school administration that is willing to allow that coach the space and the energy and the time and the resources to expand the idea. So that would be like a principal or an AP or a parent coordinator or a PTA president, people on the inside of the school who are willing to work in tandem with that coach to build out an idea on the logistical level. And then the third corner of the triangle is really a parent community that is willing to go along with it. Now, I can tell you from my experience, I was always that coach that was trying to drive outward. Kids and their parents are a pretty flexible energy source. They want quality enrichment. They want quality resources. So they're willing to go with you if you've got something good to say to them. And then if you can just get the principal to kind of put you all together in spaces, in rooms, then you have something that can build, that's a kernel. You can build a program in a school. And then when it comes to the next level of developing a network, you start talking about a network, then you're talking about what we call the golden circle. The golden circle is where you start with an after-school program in a school, and then maybe you build a second one, or maybe if you're lucky, you build a third one. We always feel like 3 is the magic number. If you can get 3 teams in libraries, in schools, then they can start thinking about each other as opponents and colleagues in this idea. Then you start driving them towards measurable, goal-oriented activities. And that is to say, camps and tournaments on weekends. And again, this is the moment where you're going to need to connect with somebody in the world to create that opportunity to have that space. Not always easy, but it can usually be done. And when you have kids in the after-school program, I think a lot of things that a lot of chess coaches that I've experienced over the years, that the mistake is that they don't think to drive the kids to compete. The key is that you can learn all you want in an after-school program, but if you don't have somewhere to plug it in, if you don't have somewhere to go to measure, we talk about measurable success all the time. If you don't have somewhere to go where you can actually test the knowledge that you acquire, then it's like, it's daycare essentially. But if they go from their clubs, the coach says, all right, we just learned a new opening. We just learned a new tactical motif. We just learned how to be patient. We just learned how to use a chess clock. We just learned whatever it is, the lesson. On Saturday, I'll see you at the gym at the high school, and we're going to play a tournament against another team. So please get a lot of sleep, drink a lot of water, eat some good protein, hug your mommies, and we'll see you Saturday morning at 9 a.m. If you connect them to that other side of the circle, to using their skills and feeling proud about the results they get, that's when you start to build a network. Then it catches fire. You start with the one kernel, you build another program or a third program. They can be small. They don't have to be big to start. 8, 10 kids in a library that meet once a week. If they have someone to message for them and to give them a goal and give them a sense of direction, and then they point them to some kind of measurable activity that lets them use that skill, then you've got something. It will catch fire in that way. So anyway, that's my sort of atomistic breakdown of the kind of basic kernels of how it's. I mean, for me, Russ had a network of schools in Manhattan. I had a much smaller, more localized network of schools in Brooklyn. We merged back in 2018, and then we started growing. We had a similar vision. We started growing, and now we're at 27 schools. And I have 3 schools on deck that want to start within the next school year. And everyone wants to be part of it once the ball gets rolling, right? You get that energy going, the critical mass of kids start appearing at things, and then just brace yourself, because you might end up with more kids than you can deal with. I think we had 560 kids on the field this weekend in 2 tournament sites in Manhattan and Brooklyn. And it was a record-breaking weekend for us by a long shot. Like, we just blew it out of the water, and it sort of begins to take on a life of its own. So you have, brace yourself for what happens on the other side. When you become successful with it, you want to be ready to greet all that success when it arrives. Thanks.
Thank you. Mark, so did you want to plug in? I know we
Yeah,
have
let's
a couple more minutes.
do a few questions now, because that's just really exciting to see what you all have built in New York City. And I really like that Little League analogy, because I think a lot of our educators or parent volunteers can relate to that model. Not all of us live in a New York City. So a lot of the folks on the call here are from smaller towns across the US. So what do you recommend? How can they set a goal for them? Like, what would be appropriate for them, in the first year of a new chess program in a smaller place, so that they could measure success, maybe in a way similar to what you've done?
Yeah, so I think it's important to, in the chess community, to be really nice to everybody and to know that everybody's an ally, because we're one community, and we can really, we're stronger together. So I would look for the people in your state that what might be already pre-existing and piggyback on them. And by supporting other people's events, you're actually giving your own kids an opportunity to plug in. So I think a good start would be to see if there's any pre-existing ecosystem that's already open, and that's easy to plug into immediately. So if there's something happening that you can point your kids to, or from a club that exists. And I'm pretty sure that at the most of the state level, there's probably a state championship, along with a local tournament circuit that probably happens on a weekend basis that you probably find. So I would recommend networking within the local community, making friends with everybody. And instead of looking at people like competitors, looking at them like friends, because there's so much chess to go around. There's so many schools. And the more that we do, there's gonna be more for everybody to connect. So I think that, like for us, chess in the schools was always an ecosystem. That was a nonprofit out of New York that had a free tournament every weekend. We would take our kids and bring them there to give them the opportunity to play against other kids. And it was worth its weight, always going to other people's tournaments and being a part of that. If that's not the case, I really think that first step of allowing your kids to feel what a tournament looks like, it's scary, because how are they going to respond? But I think that once kids feel the magic of what a competitive, there's a lack of, chess culture in a lot of places because kids never experienced it.
Well, it's kind of like going to a baseball game in the Little League analogy.
Right. No one's ever went to a game. No one's had the chance to understand what chess looks like as that exciting adrenaline rush, team-centric idea. So if you have a club, I think that you need to be urgent about putting something on the calendar that's going to give them the opportunity to plug in that capacity. And if you don't, and you wait till next year, you wait till the following year, you're not going to have a team or a program. But if you put something on the calendar and use that urgency, even if it's your own club, and you create a tournament and you make it different.
Have like an end of the year tournament just in your school. All right.
End of the year tournament. But what I would say about a tournament is make it special. Put tablecloths on, make it sure there's no talking, make sure the parents are not allowed in the room, get trophies, talk about it in a way that makes it's different than your club, and differentiate that, and build it up. Make sure that, that it's on the calendar a month away or 2 months away. There's something that you can talk about on an ongoing basis that the kids are getting excited and working towards. But I would really, becoming a USCF member or an affiliate is very easy. And rating tournaments for your club is very easy. And I know that, John, we spoke about that, but I think maybe having a follow-up or information available to how to rate a tournament, how to become an affiliate and get your kids in the opportunity to play a tournament is something everybody could do. And I think everybody should do. And I think that's part of the, getting more adoption of chess into more places, getting access to more people to understand the process of becoming a tournament organizer, and then how simple it really is to get a tournament together. So I would definitely say those two things. One is look for a pre-existing ecosystem to plug into. And if there isn't one, take that leap of faith and put a tournament on the calendar and treat it differently, treat it special, make it exciting, make it special for the kids, and don't run away from the idea of the competition, run towards it and give the kids the opportunity to win and to lose and to be recognized. And you do it in a productive way that cares about the child. You're going to begin to see the connection from your after school clubs to your teams. It's going to accelerate that, and it's going to change the whole dynamic of the program.
Oh, that's excellent advice, Russ. So So that's like the target at the end of the year. What does the beginning of the year look like for a new program? Like, chart us out across the school year.
Right. So our programs, we're kindergarten through 5th grade, and we call our programs chess club and teams because we don't want the term team to kind of, in a sense, prohibit young kids that are not prepared to be in competition to join. So it's a different layer of engagement. So we say chess club and team, but we all meet at the same time and place. We bring multiple layers of coaches for differentiated instruction. So an average ICN program, we might go into a school with 10 coaches at the same time. Now, that might be 3, it might be 4, it might be 2, but allowing for kids that are in different levels and differential instruction to not be all in the same room. You could talk to them differently, you can treat them differently. A kindergartner is going to be much different than a 5th grader. I think if you try to have them all in the room at the same time, you can miss out on some of the language that's needed to really inspire a 5th grader. Is going to be much different than the language that a kindergartner needs to hear. And obviously the lessons are going to be different as well. So we use differentiated learning with multiple classrooms running simultaneously. And on day 1, we are already talking about what the next event is. We get kids onboarded to competition immediately. Now, not kindergartners, but because in chess tournaments, like I told you, like the starting rating is 100. You don't need to be a grandmaster to play. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to play against another kid that's a complete beginner, and it's going to be rated like there's no minimum threshold to play in a chess tournament. I think that's created by us. But the reality is that 2 kids that know how to move the pieces and can make a basic, they know the basic checkmate, they'll start with a rating of 100 or 105. Like Tani Adeyemi, the famous student that I had that won the New York Championship, now he's a international master. His first rating was 105, and he played in a chess tournament within 6 weeks of learning how the pieces move. So I think that I would encourage you guys to use US chess, use the rating system, use the tournaments right away, immediately. Because if you wait a year, you might not have them anymore.
One other thing, Mark, just to tail on to that Little League analogy. When your kid signs up for Little League, they don't spend a year learning off the field fundamentals. They don't spend a year in batting cages, or they play baseball right away. They go on the T-ball, they run the bases, they field the ball. It's haphazard and crazy. If you've ever seen, like my 4-year-old was in T-ball, it's mayhem. It looks like it's a YouTube viral video waiting to happen every second, but they're playing baseball right off the bat, and they wear jerseys. It looks and feels like the real thing. And there's no point in delaying that. They want to feel it right away. They want to feel like that. I would talk about nationals on the first day of club every year. This is why you're here, and this is where we're headed. This is what the goal will be 6-7 months down the road. And I knew that was the only way to keep everyone on the same page and to keep parents emailing me and asking questions and being involved, was to build a goal, put it way out there, out in front, and just say, you want to be on that airplane in May when we go to Nashville. Here's what we got to do. This is what has to happen for us to feel like we're all together.
So what does a typical meeting look like then? Like, how do you balance teaching versus playing time?
Yeah, so I think our programs are very aspirational, that these events are an opportunity open to everybody. Not everybody's going to participate, but that they're available, I think, is a powerful mindset for even that kindergarten that's not going to be going to nationals, to know that he's part of a group of people that are going to be going. So the allotment of time, I think, for ICN, for what we've done, has been more important than necessarily the content of the lessons itself. We really pride ourselves in over communicating to the kids. So before every chess lesson, we actually get them in groups and we talk about, I call it past, present, and future. They need to be connected to like some of our chess programs have a 20-year history. We talk about what we've done previously, the success, how chess relates to the school and to the whole, just, in general as a narrative. Then we talk about the present, like what are we doing today? And then in the future, what are we going to be doing 2 weeks from now, a month from now, 6 months from now? We talk to the kids and we keep them fully informed in the whole process of past, present, and future, and try to relate chess not just to moves on the board, but to a lifestyle and to an idea, and tickle their imagination to make them feel something and get excited about something, like they're part of something. So every one of our clubs starts with a meeting, and we talk about, like, how did we do last week? What happened in the previous tournament? Bring the kids up that went, talk about something. Talk about what we're going to do today, and then talk about what we're going to be doing next weekend or a week, 2 months from now, or one. And those sort of communicating as if there's a meaning and we're doing something together and we're a community, we're in a group, is very powerful. And then we break into skill differentiated lessons. So like I said, some programs we have 7 or 8 classes running simultaneously. And these classes might be something like a kindergarten group. Then we might have, once we get above kindergarten, we might be differentiated by rating. Kids that are rated under 400, kids that are under 600, kids that are under 800, kids that are under 1,000, kids that are over 1,000, kids that are over 1,200. And we might differentiate based upon that, and we'll assign the coaches accordingly. Once the kids are in those groups, once again, we communicate again. We talk about in a microcosm of those kids, how those kids are doing. We use a lot of stats. Every kid has a Chess Kid account, and we track how many puzzles and lessons and videos they've done in the last week. So we call it coaching off the stats. The more we can get our kids to do chess puzzles or watch chess videos or do chess lessons that we're tracking, we recognize them. We do something like this. Jessica, congratulations, you did 60 puzzles this week. Steve, you did 30. I want you to do more next week. Jimmy, what happened? You didn't do any puzzles this week. What happened? Come on, do more. Oh, Steven, 85 puzzles, number 1, come to the front. And we're talking and motivating about stats and talking to the kids. So before we get into any chess lessons, we are creating this idea of it's like, it's connecting them to each other around a shared idea of training. And we, like I said, chesskid.com has a tremendous curriculum and tactics and puzzles. So that's a big part of once we get into the individual class groups. And then we get into the lessons, and we will have skill appropriate lessons for each group. I believe on our ICN staff, we have, I don't know, 15 masters. So every school that has a high level group has a chess master, but we have a lot of people that are rated under 1,000 that work with kindergartners that are talking about peace movement. So our instructors are based towards the level of the kids that we need. And most of our coaches, a high majority of our coaches are not titled players, but for the top groups, we have strong players. We really trust their judgment as far as class groupings and accommodating their particular groups. And then after the lesson, which we want to be highly engaging, a lot of Q&A, a lot of, we have a rule of call on every kid at least once during the lesson, stuff like that. Make sure everybody's heard their voice once, make sure every kid's participating. A wrong answer is better than no answer. Just basic stuff like that. Then we pair them up into what we call like tournament-like environments, where you get your notation out, you sit, you get paired up, and we want them to practice like they play. So we put kids in serious games where there's, the kids feel like something at stake. We set the environment where, the expectations, no talking, go get a glass of water, come back, get your notation out. And we use a large portion of the club after the lesson for practical play, tournament-like environment. And at the end of it, we break down and we have a closing meeting, once again, communicating, this is what we worked this week, this is what we did. This just like a coach would talk to the Little League. At the end, everybody take a knee, come to the middle, and we see you guys this weekend, and we close it out that way. And then, every weekend we have our ongoing tournament circle that these kids come in and plug into. The coaches in the classroom are on site on the weekends, so the kids are competing. And then on a monthly basis, we have citywide tournaments where different teams compete against each other. And then we go to the city, state, and national tournament. This year at the Nationals, I think, Ian, we brought 200 kids to the national championship from New York?
To Maryland?
Yeah, 190 kids?
Yeah, about 190.
Yeah, 190 kids. So
yeah.
Wow. Well, Russ, that is really helpful to see how you broke down the day or the meeting. And I think it's really good to hear that as well as you're doing, a lot of your coaches are not expert players themselves, because that's something that a lot of us and our audience then could relate to. It gives us confidence that we could do that. I did notice in doing some research for this that you've also founded an organization called Her Move Next.
Right.
Are there any special considerations for encouraging more girls to play chess?
Right. Well, the U.S. Chess Federation has the All Girls Nationals usually in April. Sophia Rhodes, who's on the call, I see her here. She does a great job organizing the New York State All Girls Championship. So there's events that you could, without running an all girls program, you could take out a layer of the girls in your program that are already existing and point them towards a place where they can go together and then build an idea and camaraderie around those events. So in New York, we have a series. Chess in the Schools runs an all-girls event. Like I said, Sophia Rhodes done one for years, the All-Girls National. So we piggyback on all-girls events. We use our overall teams that have girls in them to pull them out for those key events. And once they get connected to each other, I think the most important thing about the Her Move Next and that idea is that girls create friendships and camaraderie around the game of chess, and it keeps them, when they're socially connected to the game, they're more likely to stay in the game. And we noticed that because Her Move Next was based upon a public school PS33 that won the national championship. This was in 2000, I think 14 or 15. We had 17 girls in the school that were rated over 1,000 at one point. I mean, the girls did very well when there was that culture that they can plug into, and by creating this sort of idea that, and then once you don't have that, the odds are still stacked against girls playing. At our programs, unfortunately, they're still primarily dominated by without any, just left to its own vices, the self-selection is still predominantly male in our chess programs. But given an opportunity like using the all-girls events and creating ideas where these girls connect socially and having opportunities like, girls' night or little things to keep them connected socially and together, you can see, I mean, there's been many times in our programs that the girls have been a higher proportion of our competitive players than the boys.
Actually,
and so, you know.
One extra point along there, Russ, something I noticed a long while back, and I figured out how it was possible to have chess clubs that populated more or less evenly across boys and girls, was it came down to something as simple as introducing chess curriculum during the daytime in schools. So the schools where I did not have access to classrooms for daytime chess, to be able to meet the student body and spread chess culture from within the school during the school day. Essentially, I was leaving a stack of flyers and I was lucky to get whichever kids came. It was 19 boys and one very, frightened little girl, always brave. That girl always stayed with it. She always stuck it out. But I always felt for her. The schools where I had access to curricular chess, where I could teach chess to kids during the school day, you start with kinders, you go to first graders and second graders, you meet those kids, you get them enthusiastic. Those clubs populated very, very easily with girls. They filled with girls, and those girls, like Russ said, they performed well once they connected across the club environment socially. They performed well and they won a lot over the years. So in my experience, that I don't know why it is, what the key is there with curricular chess in the day. That was the kind of linchpin for me. Once I noted that difference between different schools I would be in, the more chess culture you have from the groundswell, from the ground up, the more girls you will tend to have.
Now, Mark, I just wanted to make another point quickly. Was when I spoke to John Galvin about this phenomenon, is that when he first started his chess program at 318 years ago, his first section that he ever won, his first team won a under 700 section at nationals, and that was like he had won the world champion, and I've had teams that we've won under 700 sections. Now, point being is that once you win and you get the level of play up, and that's when we talk about culture. Once there's a critical mass of a certain level of school, new kids coming in will assimilate that immediately. So when you have a group of kids that are all 1,800, like in Galvin's in 318, a new kid coming in that doesn't know how to play will become 1,800 very quickly. It's a strange phenomenon, but they're going to conform to the level of the school. So that's why when you raise the level of any program, you start, like Alexis, who's on this call, he started a program at PS 130 in Brooklyn, say 3 years ago, where the average rating was 200. Then he got the average rating up to say 300, 400. Now he's producing 1,000 level players consistently. They're coming in and they're hitting that 1,000 level right away. So to get your first player to be competitive might take a year, 2 years. You get your first player to 1,000. But once you get 2 and 3, the critical mass of competitive players will accelerate extremely quickly because kids are going to assimilate to the culture and the expectations of that group that you create. And that's why the culture is so important, because there's an assimilation. Like that's why, culture in Canada, people play hockey very well. Now, not the stereotype. In certain communities, people play, this is a basketball community, and everybody seems to be really good. And then New York, like this school's a chess school. No kid is born better at chess than another kid. But you go to a school like 318 and then there's 80 kids that are over 1,000. Like, wait, does kids they just self-select because they're good? No, there's a culture at the school that they go into and they're able to reach these things. So I think that when you guys are thinking about it, starting it, and I know I see Jeff here. I know that I saw a thing about Jeff where on 60 Minutes where he had all these kids. I think it was like in Alabama playing. They started all of this groundswell of competitive players. A culture was created. Kids coming in were assimilating. So I think this could be done nationally, and I've seen it done. And I think that's an important part of creating the culture and the ecosystem, because new kids coming in are going to really, I think, do the work for you. You're not going to really have to do a lot of the lifting. They'll do it for each other just by wanting to be part of the group.
Hey, Russ, I hate to cut you off, but this is so inspiring, and you've given us so many great ideas. I want to save time for our breakout
Right.
rooms so that we can split out and actually everybody else can ask questions, not just me. So thank you very much to you and to Ian and to your whole team. And I look forward to all the questions in the breakout sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Excellent. We had excellent questions in our breakout and very thoughtful answers. It was very good.
Good.
So Carol, what are we doing for the last little bit of time?
So I've just posted a note in the chat about the February webinar, which will be conducted by Brian Tillis and Abel Talamentes about working in middle school and high school chess programs.
Carol, it's Adam instead of Abel for the February one.
I'm sorry.
He's
Yes.
got high school.
Yes, I'm sorry, Adam. I'm winging it here. But we did set up the registration link for February. It's on the events page that's in the chat. And after the session tonight, we'll also be sending out a survey link. It's quick. It should take about 3 minutes or less to fill out. We'd love to know your thoughts, and we'd love your input about future webinar topics, especially. And just want to thank everybody for coming out this evening and spending part of your day with us. Renee, John, Mark, anything else?
Thank you to everyone from ICN. We learned a lot from you tonight.
I have a quick question. I'm sorry. Is there an avenue for people to funnel questions to us who didn't get a chance to hear an answer to something in their minds? Is there like are you guys gathering email follow-up or something, or should we?
So we have a survey going out, so we can add a question. If there are questions to be directed to you all, we could okay. Potentially do that.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea.
Yeah, I think if you, I know people can contact us through our website, or we're very easy to find online. So if anyone has really had a burning follow-up question that they would love to get an answer to, you're welcome to reach out to us. And
Ian, why don't you go ahead and type that in the chat for everybody?
Sure thing.
Yeah, we're getting lots of good feedback in the chat.
There we go. That's the website, and there's a contact us form. Does everybody see that?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. There's a contact us form on our webpage, so you can just drop your info in there and fire us a question if you want to reach out.
Now,
it looks like Adam has his hand raised as well. Adam, would you like to say something?
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
I was going to suggest for the next webinar, maybe if we could gather questions from folks beforehand too, that might facilitate things, and we can go through them beforehand. That might be an idea for the next webinar.
We can do that.
I said one. I think there's so many ideas that we talked about in so little time, but I would encourage you guys, if you hadn't watched the movie Brooklyn Castle, a lot of what we do at ICN is trying to model off what we've kind of observed from the 318 program. A lot of our coaches that we have, Alexis being one of them, were alumni of 318. And if you haven't watched the movie, you'll see what the magic of a team and culture and competition and support. And I think it'll really give you a better context. It's an hour and a half. I put it in the chat. It's called Brooklyn Castle. But I think it'll be a got you moment of what chess could be when you watch that movie. And it's very, very powerful.
And Russ, that's actually a preview for our May webinar, because it'll be the 10th anniversary of Brooklyn Castle. So we're going to bring some of the stars of the movie to a webinar.
Right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for coming.
All right. Good luck with your chess programs nationwide.